Hey folks, today we are going to be speaking about a book that will help you immensely if you're just getting started with your financial literacy or getting started with a wealth building, right? So, and the best part, this book was written in 1926, a good couple of years ago, probably, when most of us weren't born, but you'd be surprised to know that the amount of relevance it has today. Let's get started. Hey folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Praveen Ramesh, and on this channel we review non-fiction books and I speak about lessons that I'm personally learning by reading these books or watching some videos. I find it immensely useful. I hope you do too. So as I said at the start, today we are going to be speaking about a book that was written in 1926. Let me just cross verify that. Yes, it was written in 1926 and it's a very short and a punchy book. In all, it accounts to around 144 pages. And so this book is called The Richest Man in Babylon by George Samuel Clason, right? So it's an amazing book, and I'm going to be speaking about 7 lessons that I learned or you can learn to build your wealth, right? And the best part, so this was about a city called Babylon. Before we get into the lessons that the richest man in Babylon incorporated to make his wealth, it's important to know the core characteristics of Babylon, right? First thing, they didn't have any natural resources, right? So they didn't have a river, they didn't have any of the greenery or anything to make a lot of money, because in the olden days, majority of the trade happened through rivers or transportation, and by selling and buying goods, the barter system and things like that. They didn't have any of the natural resources to facilitate that, and there used to be literally no scope for experts, right? Sorry that I'm looking into my notes. And you would be very surprised to know that there were no or literally very minimal things that these folks could trade. Yet it was one of the richest provinces in those times, and what you would be surprised is they were rich because of the principles they followed in wealth building, right? And which is what we are going to be covering today. The best part about this book is it's structured around how the Go Giver book was structured, probably a link here, where one person kind of narrates his wealth building philosophies to the villagers and they end up following it, right? So it's very similar to Go Giver in that terms, but in terms of the lessons, these are going to blow you away, right? First one, a part of what you earn is always yours, right? So save 10% so of your total income. That's lesson number 1. We all might think that, hey, everything that I earn is mine, right? But if you think about it, you pay your rent, you pay your bills, you pay your loans, you pay your EMIs, you do a lot of these things. You eat out, we drink, we do, all these stuff, and we end up paying someone else, right? So what Arcar basically starts with is saying, hey, keep minimum of 10% of what you earn for yourself. You shouldn't be spending that at all, and start saving that, right? So that's lesson number 1. Save 10% of whatever you earn. Basically, the bigger lesson is a part of what you earn is always yours. You shouldn't be spending that. Lesson number 2, the problem is not with your earning, it's about how you spend. Right? A lot of people, when we say that, hey, you need to save 10, 20, 30, whatever percentage, they say, hey, I don't make enough for me to save. For which Arcar says that note down every little expense that you do on a day-to-day basis, right? And now just kind of eliminate the things that you feel are wants and then end up saving them. It would for sure account for more than 10%. So if you feel like you're not able to save at least 10% of what you earn, I would say you should follow what Arcar said, right? Basically note down every little expense that you do, right? Even a penny that you spend here, a penny that you spend on eating out, or let's say buying a subscription for a tool and things like that, and then see what is it that you can cut out to save that 10%. So that's lesson number 2. Write down every little expense that you do to ensure that you save the 10% that we discussed in lesson number 1. Lesson number 3, multiply your money. Right? So no one has ever got rich by just saving 10, 15, 20% of their income. So for you to invest in the right places, or for you to grow your wealth, you have to invest in right places, right? And keep investing the profits that you make from those investments, right? And which something that I'll be covering at a later stage is how to choose where you invest, right? So I'll be covering that in the later half of this video. But third lesson is for you to multiply your money. Saving the 10% is never going to help, right? Fourth one, protect your money, right? incredible lesson, something that's relevant even today, where Arkar speaks about, how a couple of his investments really failed at the start when he started his investment journey. So he says a good amount of money should always be in safer instruments so that they give you money when it's a rainy day, right? So he goes on to say it could be something like a property, it could be something that gives you a fixed returns, somewhere where you feel is a safe haven for you to have that money when it's rainy day, let's say, God forbid something happens, right? So that's lesson number 4. Protect your money and put it under safer instruments or somewhere where you get some amount of assurity in returns to ensure that you are saved for the rainy day. Lesson number 5, profitable risky investments. This is something that I have been trying to do since I read this book a couple of months back. Is basically, remember how we spoke about saving up and writing down your expenses to ensure to see where your wants are. Arkar goes on to say, if you end up saving more than 15-20%, you could invest some amount of that money in slightly risky investments, right? So let's say personally for me, my wants could be, let's say, ordering food from outside or going to a movie or, having some snacks when I go to movies. I could save up that money and invest it in a slightly risky portfolio or risky side of investments. So what does that do? Basically, if it gives a good return, you're going to multiply your wealth by multiple folds. If it doesn't give you a lot of returns, you can still do away with it saying, hey, I spent it on the want. Remember, this is after you save 10-15% of your income, right? So he says, hey, whatever your wants are, try and streamline that into more high risk investments to see if it can kind of multiply your wealth by multifold, right? Amazing thing, and I've been personally trying to implement this. I'm not gonna say if it's turning out to be good or not. Probably I'll give it some time to tell you. And sixth one, ensure a future income, right? Again, he goes on to say you're never going to always keep your job as a primary source of income. You should have passive sources of income. Let's say you could own a property or have things that will fetch you money. In the modern day, we call it a passive income, right? So create probably a content, create a product, or do whatever that will fetch you additional money in addition to, or that will give you extra money in addition to what you earn from your day job, right? So ensure a future income to ensure that you're not, or your day job is not the only way you earn your money, right? Lesson number 7, increase your ability to learn, right? This is something again very, very, very useful, right? So 1, develop new skills that will help you make money. 2, always consult experts when you, let's say, develop these new skills, right? So Arkar goes on to say, asking the wrong person for an advice or learning things from a wrong person is as bad as investing the money in the wrong places, right? So always consult an expert, right? So if you ask me, hey, am I a financial expert? Definitely not. So I'm, reading a lot more to develop my expertise. But if I were to invest, I would probably go to an expert and ask. If I'm asking a person who's just getting started or whose skill sets are very questionable, I'm going to end up investing at a wrong place and I'm going to lose all money. So that's as bad as investing in the wrong place, right? So always consult an expert, develop new skills that will give you the passive income that we discussed in point number 6, right? So those are my 7 lessons. Quickly going through, a part of what you earn is yours. Save at least 10%. If you are not able to do that, ensure to kind of note down every little expense you do and cut down the wants that you have. Multiply your money by investing them in the right places. Protect your money to ensure that it saves you on the rainy day. Make profitable risky investments by eliminating the wants and see if you can redirect that money to, let's say, invest in places where it will give you multifold returns. Ensure a future income, to have a passive source of income, to ensure that your day job is not your only source of money. And 7th and the final one is to increase your ability to learn either new skills or learn from experts or consult experts to know what are the newer places that you could invest in. Something very, very fascinating happened here, right? So this book was written in 1926 about a city called Babylon that existed 4,000 years before 1926, right? But here are a few things that you would note, right? These principles are still relevant today. You go to any financial expert today, they would say, hey, the fundamental to multiply your wealth are these basic 7 principles. So the basics are never going to change. Didn't change 4,000 years ago, is not going to change now. It's not going to change 4,000 years from now. Right? So there is no quick fix to making wealth or doing anything in life. So that's the biggest takeaway that I took by reading this book. If you think you have any other takeaway, if you've read this book, do let me know what you think, and also do let me know what kind of book I should be reviewing next. Until then, this is Praveen Ramesh signing off.